Now, we have a very exciting story that Alex Libby has put together for us about the La Nina and what the CPC has to say about it as we go into fall and winter. What are you expecting, Marcus? Anything good?
Well, when we talk about El Nino and La Nina, all I can think about jokingly is the child.
I know. I'm big on Duolingo, not sponsored. It is like my favorite thing to do. Me and my mom are both trying to learn Spanish on it, and that's all I think of too.
Yeah.
So,
No, in all seriousness, though, I mean, this is an important part, critical part of the global forecast, and it has local impacts too.
let's get a quick look at what Alex has to say about it.
Hello everyone, I'm News 2 meteorologist Alex Libby, and we are now into astronomical fall. And when that happens, every single year, I'm curious what we might expect for the rest of fall, but especially as we head into the winter. So I went on the Climate Prediction Center's website, and they were forecasting a La Nina watch. Well, what does a La Nina watch mean? Well, according to the Climate Prediction Center, it has to do with ENSO, E-N-S-O, El Nino Southern Oscillation. And all that is talking about, it's an ocean current in the Pacific Ocean, the southern Pacific Ocean. And when the temperature, the sea surface temperature in the southern Pacific Ocean in this area is above average, it's called El Nino. It's as simple as that. When that area in the southern Pacific is below average, it's called La Nina. So why do we care so much about El Nino and La Nina? Well, it can have some impacts on our weather, both in the fall, but especially in the winter. What are we dealing with right now? Well, according to the Climate Prediction Center, we're on a La Nina watch, so we can expect below average temperatures in this area over the next several months. Well, what does it look like right now? Well, we have above average temperatures in the northern Pacific, but as of recently, we started to see some below average sea surface temperatures in that equatorial, so near the equator in southern Pacific Ocean. That means a La Nina, is starting to build. So earlier, I talked to a climate expert, Nat Johnson, and this is what he has to say about how the La Nina can actually impact our weather in the winter.
And some of the typical impacts of a La Nina over the U.S. would be it tends to be drier than average across the southern tier of the U.S., especially in the southeastern U.S., wetter over the Pacific Northwest and parts of the, say, Ohio Valley. Tends to be warmer than average over the southern tier of the U.S. And cooler over, say, the Pacific Northwest. These are some of the main winter impacts of La Nina.
Yeah, so basically here is what a La Nina could mean for our winter in the United States. In the Pacific Northwest, this green shaded circle, that is indicating where we typically see above average rainfall during a La Nina winter. The blue shaded area, below average temperatures, that includes some of the northern Rockies and the northern Great Plains and the Midwest. And in our green shaded area where we're located, including Tennessee and Kentucky, also above average rainfall is usually expected during a La Nina winter. And if you're down in the far south, warm and dry conditions are pretty normal. The main reason for that is because where the jet stream is located, the sea surface temperatures in the Pacific can affect where the jet stream goes during the winter. And during La Nina, it typically has a deep dive down on the East Coast, bringing us more storm systems so we get wet, and also bringing cold air down from Canada for folks in the upper plains and Midwest. So that's why we typically see these conditions. But I talked to Nat Johnson and I said, hey, we're not expected to see a strong La Nina. We're actually expected to see a weak La Nina, is what he mentioned. And that's exactly what we saw last winter. So will our winters be exactly the same as last year?
It's important to realize that La Nina is only one factor that can impact our weather. It happens to be, maybe one of the most predictable factors this far in advance. But there are many other factors, many other patterns that wind up shaping our weather. So sometimes the actual weather we experience looks nothing like the influence of El Nino or La Nina because these other factors dominate. So it's certainly, I would not expect this winter to be a mirror or to be a repeat of what we saw last year.
So as you just heard, yeah, we probably won't see the exact same conditions as last year, but if we do see similar conditions, this is what we might be able to expect. Again, this is not guaranteed. And this is in Nashville. Last winter, here are the numbers. Our average temperature, that averages the low and the high, is about 41, 42 degrees. And last winter was pretty close to that. So we had near normal temperatures. It's actually slightly above average, but actually very close to normal. As far as precipitation, above average rainfall. Hey, that's pretty normal for a La Nina. That's what we typically see. It wasn't way above average, but about an inch above average for the winter of 2024 and 2025. And here's the thing that many of you are looking forward to or care about is how much snowfall will we see this winter? Well, in Nashville, the average is just under 5 inches. And last winter, we saw 6.3 inches of snowfall here in Nashville. So we actually saw above average. But like you said, we're not guaranteed a near average temperature, near average precipitation, and above average snowfall winter. We could see basically anything because there's so many factors that go into impacting our winter weather.
Alex does such a great job with these. Oh my goodness. I think they're so fun.
He did a good job.
I think my favorite thing he said is what we care about the snow. Because I'm like, yeah, a lot of people do care about the snow. And I also think it was really an important point that even as we are entering a weak La Nina, that we are not necessarily going to see the exact same scenario as we did last year.
Yeah, each La Nina is different, and the measurements of how warm or how cool the waters are in the equatorial Pacific play a big role in the overall global pattern. And so, I mean, we're just right there. We're right there in it. And I do like there are stats that show that when in a weak La Nina, sometimes we get some of our higher precipitation totals. So that is going to be a possibility. But I also think it can set us up for some severe weather too. So we've got to be careful for that. Because if that warm air can ride northward and you got the jet stream punching down, it's a recipe for severe weather in the winter months. So be prepared for that too. And of course, it doesn't exclude us from snow.
Absolutely. And I definitely think that what people forget is that, I mean, even in the winter months, we're in Middle Tennessee. We have storms all of the time. It doesn't matter necessarily what season, it matters what's going on in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we can have severe weather any time of the year. We've seen it before. We saw
Right.
it in 2023 in December. So this is something that's not necessarily uncommon. It doesn't happen often, but I wouldn't say that it's uncommon. I mean, it happens more often than you would think.
It does. It does. So be prepared. Of course, expect a little bit of everything in the winter. That's the best thing to really say. But hopefully we get a little bit more precipitation, especially coming out of what is usually our driest season, the fall. So winter, hopefully we get a little bit more rain.
Yeah, I don't mind a little bit of rain. I don't mind a little bit of snow.
Right?
So
Some
that
sun
would
would
be
be
really
nice.
fun.
Yes.
Oh, the sun would be really nice. And then the other thing that I want to hit just before we get out of here is Alex talking about the average temperature being just over 41 degrees.
Ugh.
I was like, wait a minute. It's kind of a shell shock because I
Right.
know that we get really cold at night, but then you don't think about we're not that warm in the afternoons.
It's pretty chilly.
So here we go again, getting closer and closer. But also, it's the very second day of fall. So we can sit back and relax in the fall weather for now. But again, you want to make sure to stay weather alert as we go into the rest of today and tomorrow.